He's recording.
All right,
Have any Stonecrest?
so to stop the agenda again. Call this meeting to order and begin with the roll call. Thad Mayfield, present.
Andrew Wells, present.
Dave Marcus. Stonecrest Industrial Council, present, represented by Bernard Knight. Not Bernard Knight.
Let the collective Bernard Knight.
No, it's
Not even that.
No,
It's not even that.
Yeah, there's a deeper point. I'm sure we can get
All right, it's clear that we do have a quorum. We see that Chris Seafoot is absent, so yes, we do have a quorum. Don't see anybody here from our citizenry to do public comments unless somehow they have access online.
No.
And I suspect not. And I guess the first thing, order of business would be to go ahead then and approve the agenda, and which includes approving the minutes from October 10th. We have a brief update on the next version of Economic Development Plan by our Economic Development Director, Christine Green. Brief update on city economic development actions or news, and then a discussion also by Christine Green, and a discussion of our future report to City Council. Content that's associated with that.
Excuse me, that was by
Can we-
Commissioner Green.
I'm sorry?
That is, item F is an update from Kristen on the,
Item
Report.
No. it
D
doesn't
and
say
E.
okay, sorry.
And so we'll discuss the actions and the content and format. I think we've already decided on the format, but we've got a list of the actions taken in October, adjournment, and that's expected to be certainly by 7:30 p.m. Can I get a motion to approve our agenda?
I move that we approve it.
Second.
Moved in second, properly second, all in favor, aye.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry,
Call for discussion.
call for discussion.
Yes, sir. I'm going to ask that it be revised in a couple of ways.
Okay,
First of all, on the second page, the flip side,
okay,
item number 5 or B, motion, where it says seconded by member Bernie Knight. Wait a sec, we're on the agenda. We're on the minutes.
You're on the.
no, we're on the,
agenda.
On the-
we're
we're on
approving
the-
the agenda right
When you said, okay,
Approve
Right.
the
when
agenda.
will we?
And the minutes are a part of the agenda, but we haven't gotten to that item on the agenda.
I'm sorry, I thought you had as part of the.
No, no,
The
no.
agenda.
Mhm.
Negative. Okay, separate item. All right, thank
So
you.
you withdraw your discussion.
I withdraw the discussion.
Okay. All in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we will carry forward with the agenda as printed. Any discussion on the agenda item, I'm sorry, on the minutes from October 10th? Okay,
Yes, sir. This is a point that I've made before, and I know some may feel that it's unduly picky, but I can assure you it's not. In fact, it is something of it's an important point for the organization I represent, which is the Industrial Council. The City Council, when it established this committee
Mhm.
back in January of last year,
Mhm.
it specifically amended what it originally said, the original list of members, to add the Industrial Council. The Industrial Council is here in its own right. I just represent them by vote of the board.
Right.
So when it says in item number 5C, seconded by member Bernie Knight, I am not a member.
Okay.
All right, I'm fine, you can say Bernie Knight, and that's fine, we all understand that. But going back to the first page, where it says attendees,
Mhm.
I think we could probably let that go, that Bernard Knight,
Mhm.
and not have, and everybody understands that. But when we start talking about what it says in the plan, the draft of the plan,
Mhm.
it has me listed individually.
Okay.
And it doesn't say a darn thing about the Industrial Council. And this is a point that I've made before, and it's something that's a matter of concern for us.
Okay.
Especially since where that part of the plan at the very beginning says, and there were numbers of individuals who participated, and there's an implication that I'm here as an individual, which I'm not.
Right.
All right, so I would ask that the minutes be revised by taking out that one word member, and I think we'd be fine with that.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you.
But in essence, what I hear you say, you also want, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you want it clear in the minutes that your representation as the, is really for the collaboration that you represent. That should be associated with your name, I guess. is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it should be at some point. I think we all here understand that.
Right, but for the
I'm
purpose
here
of the
for
public,
For the corporation.
Right.
But just so long as that is somehow made clear, either in the minutes or elsewhere. I
Right.
think that's important.
Right.
We worked hard to get that, to get a seat here on
Right.
behalf of the council.
Right.
Not the individual.
Bernie, if I could suggest, it seems to be more upfront place to put that would be in the attendance list.
That's what I was gonna suggest also.
And I would suggest the same thing if we're gonna do it for Mr. Knight, and do it for Ms. Cosby.
And I thank you. And that's actually a point that I want to do. She's here for the Arabian Mountain Heritage Area Alliance,
Right.
not on her own.
okay,
Is this also true of Sylvia?
in terms of representing the film council, I mean,
No, should be representing, Discovery Camera, decided.
well, that-
That may
She's
or may
never
not be
made that
true. I
point.
think if you go back to the minutes of when the city council appointed it, they appointed Dorian DeBar.
right, as
Right.
representative of Side the Cab, and she represented the film commission, didn't she?
I'm not sure that he was appointed as representative. He was appointed. as-
No, Shelby.
She may have been, I'd have to
Yeah.
check.
Well, we can do a little research to confirm that and make those in the minutes.
For now, I can, definitely amend, item 5C, as well as the, calling it the attendees list at this point, to mention, Bernard Knight as a member of Stonecrest Industrial Council,
Representing.
as a representative
Right.
of the Stonecrest
Thank you.
Industrial Council.
I appreciate
Will
that.
the chair entertain a motion?
I think we need one.
I move that we adopt the agenda, amending the attendance list. The parties being represented by anyone representing a party.
So let me offer a correction. You mean approve the minutes?
Thank you. That's what I said.
You said agenda, but.
I substituted the wrong.
Yeah, okay.
I move that we approve the minutes
Okay.
after amending the list of attendees to indicate any individuals that are attending, representing organizations. And that in the action items that we drop the word member everywhere.
Thanks. Okay. Second,
Okay.
I'll second that.
moved in second. If there are no objections, it'll stand as the affirmative. Okay. Any further discussions on the minutes? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Green.
We need to vote on it.
Well, that I offered a vote, but the way that I offered the vote is that unless there are objections, we will approve it by the affirmative. But if you would prefer that we have a vote.
I'm not in charge.
Okay. Okay,
Want me to continue?
yes.
All right. The updated and final plan should be with the graphics. So you have the final plan, you just don't have the graphics. When I got the final plan, there are a couple of graphics. And when I say graphics, I'm talking not infographics, I'm talking about photos photos, that, removed, and then I did fix when you, they had it on there again, that it was you, not the industrial. Thanks for letting me fix that. So you guys should have that by tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So you get the pretty version.
Okay.
So that is where that's at. The thing I did the initial updates on that, and then I sent it to their person to sit there and get it all done. So that is where that is at. There's been a lot of positive activity. Moving on to the next item, brief update on city economic development actions or news. A lot of positive activity in regards to the industrial side. We've got the official ribbon cutting working with Pepsi on their place of working with their national team and PR on that. And then there's another project I'm working on that I can't discuss that is on that 1.5 billion square feet right next to Pepsi on that location. And then VRE program is doing good. Managed to get a email that says it was not happy because they hadn't been visited yet. And I had to remind them they were 2 months ago. So, but yeah, we sit there and have that going on. We're going to be hosting our first think tank on March 7 regarding tourism. So that's going to be with all the business leaders there, public economic development. And then we're having our first small business training series, which will be every Thursday night from March through the middle of April at 6 p.m. at Browns Mill Recreation Center. So that's going to be focused on entrepreneurialism and things like that. And then working on a couple of meetings with a couple of the businesses here in town regarding public safety. And actually, as of this morning, they're probably going to end up having a take about that and working with DeKalb Police because they're going to be there.
Right.
So we'll have that think tank coming up probably in March as well. So March is going to be very busy month. So we have what's going on in economic development that I can speak of right now.
Okay.
Perfect.
Christian,
Yeah.
if I could share two thoughts.
Yeah.
Remember them both. The first is that there's a lot of public meetings, things that happen in Browns Mill.
Yeah.
It's a nice facility.
Yeah.
It could use a bit of spending on it.
Yeah.
It looks like it was built in the 50s and not refurbished in any way since then.
Yeah.
And particularly if there are think tanks that involve people external to Stonecrest, it doesn't give a modern impression.
Think tanks to
Anything.
so the think tank will be here for the entrepreneurial program will be at Brown. So sorry if I didn't.
Yeah, but just anything that's there, it might be seeing this money to be found to spip it a little bit.
Okay, I'll add that.
And I'm gonna hold the other thought in reserve until okay, that's what it is, until I remember it. And I'm gonna take the liberty. This is about the version of the plan. I'm gonna take the liberty of promoting something that Bernie and I talked about earlier. And it overlaps into our report to council. In future years, when people look at that report, they are not going to look at it for opinion, unless it is somehow included in the report,
Right.
either as an appendix, reference though in the table of contents introduction, or in the introduction. And I'd like you to make one of those things happen.
I was going to do that anyway.
I thought you mentioned that before.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I missed that.
Yeah.
I recall that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm like 0 for 0.
I have
We're
a
winding up.
school. No, that's right. Run for the government. I have a question. I'm not setting the agenda at all for the small business meeting, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
Does it include the special permit and licensing process. Yes. Because I've asked for that among staff a couple of times.
Yeah,
Well, so have I.
Yeah. Make it clear, please. Yeah.
it's clear as mud, isn't it? So, yeah.
Is there any activity?
So the startup factory was sold to a Chinese restaurant last week.
Great, there is not a decent Chinese restaurant anywhere around here.
You mean the startup factory, not Arizona.
On the mall
No,
campus.
next door,
Yes,
well, not next door, but next door to,
The mall. At the
yeah,
mall.
the mall. No.
The
That's
start-
great
the
news.
Startup factory, Mr. Allen.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's great news.
I'm working on a coffee shop for you.
Yeah, by the way, Arizona's was bought by a group of former or current McDonald's franchise.
Yep.
So they know how to run restaurants of the sort. And they are planning to keep up with this. Different cooks, one hopes, and different servers,
And change the name on the outside.
eventually.
So it looks
I
like
don't know.
Dominique's instead of Arizona.
It's
It's called
It's
Dominique's.
just a typo.
What was your question?
I was, I saw the press release, the same for McDonald's. And I wondered, you know,
And is anything going on at the entrepreneurial institute?
Were you aware of the update which a MARTA representative made to the CAB House and Senate delegations Monday of last week about the regional Stonecrest Mall area transit?
What did they say?
The representative said that that MARTA has been in negotiations with the CAB, with the Stonecrest Development Authority. And that he thought they were coming down to a point where those negotiations were going to be finished.
Yes. I'm under NDA.
I'm aware of that, but I'd let you know that's now public knowledge, that part. And he also mentioned that Mayor Cobble had been very instrumental in reviving the Stonecrest Development Authority in order to make this feasible for MARTA to actually do a purchase or lease or whatever of that land that's necessary for this regional transportation hub.
Okay. Any other comments on our executive director, economic development director's report or comments?
No, but I'm a little concerned about this haircut.
Okay. Well,
I'm
not on the
trying to be like Bernie.
agenda. Not on the
Trying to be
agenda.
as cool as Bernie.
I want to be right on something tonight.
All right. All right, let's get down into the weeds, I guess, to some degree, of certainly the infrastructure branches of the report that would go to the city council. I sent out, I don't know if everybody had a chance to review it, sort of a outline of this is straw man. To sort of get the juices flowing on what our comments would be categorically on the contents of the report, as well as the format, which is there's one other item that should have been on here. Well, I'm gonna ask that we take that into consideration with respect to the content. I think I put it in the document that I sent out, and that is that in addition to the economic development comments that the experience of this committee in terms of how either effective, what could have been done better, et cetera, so that the report includes, that the content of the report not only includes what economic development content that we add, but the content on the experience of this committee. So that any improvements, as an example, that might be suggested, or things that we think were done great that they can underscore maybe for other committees, that might be included in the content. But I guess right now, I guess what I wanted to hear from everybody from a content perspective, and by the way, what I would like you to do, whatever content, whether it is regarding the content of the plan or the content of the experience, that you would be kind enough to send that to me in an email so that our secretary doesn't have to take notes, try to jot all those things down, and that we can make sure that we have an accurate description of what it is that you think the council should know. And I would add too, to the point that Dave made earlier regarding the appendix to the Economic Development Department's report to the committee or to the council. I guess might be considered maybe somewhat anecdotal, but I do think it's important because a lot of times when we're the council are people, and so when they get large documents, they'll spit in large documents and take from it probably more from the executive summary more than they might take from the details, particularly the appendix as an example. So if there are things, and I'm not talking about a laundry list, if there are priority elements that you want to make sure that the council is made aware of, I would encourage you to have those as one of your 2 or 3 bullets regarding what you think is important for them to know as they look through the plan. And to give you an idea of my thoughts, like you had a question, Dave, before.
I did, and
Okay.
that is what you said sounded as if the council would only receive our communication as an appendix to the plan.
No. Let me make.
I would have thought that they would receive an entirely separate document from us, which was also included.
Right. Okay. Just for clarification, to make sure that the plan, the economic development plan that the consultants completed, the economic development department has already agreed that the input that we provided in this process will be part of an addendum that they will include. The council will get all of it. The report from this committee will be in letter form, as we agreed to in our previous meeting, that we will submit to the council as a separate document of our report. In that report, what I am suggesting in the straw man that I said earlier would be the contents that are associated with what we think about either the content or should be included in the content that may not be there. As an example, there are 2 major portions of the content that I think should be included. And by the way, my general take would be to describe my appreciation for the work that the consultant has done, and maybe a couple of points on the great things that I think that they did. I will also add some things that I think could have been included, and they may come in the form of a recommendation, as an example, with a little straw man that I set out to do. And I'm saying that as part of those recommendations, I plan to include some things that I think could have been included. And one of those things would be the international business component that's in District 5 of this commission, District 5, that a part of which are in the Stonecrest area that was not covered in. And a second piece of it that I think I haven't quite figured out how I want to, but to show a strong relationship between the performance of our schools and economic development in the city. And I think that deals with, having a means to attracting the caliber of labor force that might attract the kinds of companies that pay higher wages than the ones that we do have. And, as a part of the consideration that I'm asking council to put on their radar, that's not particularly included as recommendation. Now, there's some other things. One other thing that is in the spirit of, I guess, sort of putting all of my current thoughts in, and I do plan to limit. I don't want to think about a laundry list of things. I do think that it is important that I communicate the need for specific goals, which may be in the next iteration of an economic development plan, as an example. This particular plan speaks broadly about the infrastructure. I think is an important thing, but at the same time, with limited resources, I think it's important to have specific goals in terms of not attacking, but addressing the market opportunities that the city might have that might get lost if not specified. And right now they are not. So that's the kind of thing that I'm suggesting, that if you have thoughts that you want to include in the letter, that you make bullets of those thoughts so that we can include it in the letter so that it is on the council's radar. Not that they won't look at it. There's probably somebody who will look at everything. But in terms of prioritizing, but in terms of having it on council's radar to prioritize, and primarily having it on their radar for the purposes of not only making it a priority, but perhaps making it a funding priority to make sure that those kinds of things happen. That may not get discovered in the appendix until some point down the road. And so I just want to make sure that the comments that I have are sort of upfront and center.
Brief thought, if I can remember.
Okay.
It's one of the, I didn't take my premises.
Okay, all right.
I think once we have our documents, Christian, if you could forward those to the comp plan developers,
They already have it.
our comments,
Oh, your comment. Yeah,
yeah, our stuff.
Mhm.
That would be good.
of course.
Second, what I was hoping we would agree to is that each of us send our comments or that we want included in the letter to Mr. Mayfield
Mhm.
in the next few days,
Yes, please.
and that he assemble a draft final letter,
Mhm.
send it out by email, we come back on whatever that next meeting date is,
Right.
hammer it out, and then put a close sign on the door.
Yeah.
That's how I'd like to see this proceed.
So those are certainly my thoughts. I thought that might be an efficient approach unless somebody sees it different. That we,
You're gonna do a report or you're gonna do a letter?
well, the letter is the report.
The letter is-
Right. When we had our conversation in our last meeting, I think the consensus was that our report, rather than being something lengthy, that we do it in the form of a letter. And the letter could be, certainly from my perspective, depending on the input, of course, could be a couple pages, 3 pages.
I think you're more in the range of 5 to 8, but
It could be, right.
we ought
But
to
what,
collect all the stuff, put it in.
and then
see
we,
how
and then
long
we,
it is,
right, and then we can pare it
what's-
down to what, but I do think it needs to be a reasonable size report that can be read by a council person so that they get the gist of what we think, this committee thinks, is important about the plan itself, the planning process, and what we think is recommendations, the priorities, so that they have a clear sense of what this committee is coming out, and not have some lengthy document that needs references to figure out what it is that we're trying to do.
So not to backpedal, but I think, so we've said that this committee's report is going to be an appendix to the consultant.
Well, no.
Yes,
What-
it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it will.
Right, but we have a direct letter that is going directly to council from this committee.
Correct,
Right.
correct. But that's what I'm saying. If we're saying there's the report and the letter is one and the same, then I think we need to be careful about giving suggestions or comments with regards to our committee process. Because that, in my opinion, doesn't need to be.
It's not related.
It's not related. to-
Right.
We need to have something. Planning process.
Right, well, I wouldn't expect the report that we give to council to be cut and paste. It can be included as a part of, or cut and paste as a part of the addendum to the document or the set of documents that Christian will provide to the council for their report. But our resolution directs us to provide a report to council, directly to council. So our letter, while our letter can be a part of the report that the ED provides, we have a responsibility to give council a report. what I was describing would be the content for our report, which would not be cut or dissected or disassembled and then real stuff. It would be simply a direct letter from this committee describing our report.
So we're gonna have a letter attaching a report. Am I understanding?
Well, what this group agreed to in our last meeting was that the report itself is a letter.
Okay.
Right.
Then.
No additional things there that would
Okay.
make that.
Then.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, my
I think we're talking two different things.
But my thoughts, because you beat me to it, but I was thinking that whatever we felt about the process,
Mhm.
even if we want to own things personally, right, we could just email.
Well, and per the council
Right.
and mayor, the communication of the report
Right.
and letter goes to me, and I'll submit it to the council. If you want to sit there and submit it just to council afterwards, I don't care.
Well,
But
that's what
it needs to be included in.
that's what the resolution calls. The resolution,
And it's been explained multiple times, what the process is by mayor and council on that in email.
well, the resolution has as well.
And so, and I would say that, the report is what it is, the plan is what it is.
Mhm.
I'm not arguing what that plan is at all. From that perspective, though, this committee, I believe, was created and per the resolution to create that plan and to also give your feedback and report. As to my concern is that it's in that your report should, where you see that there are weaknesses in the report, where you agree that this area is weak, or this area may be too robust. You sit there and say, okay, here's another recommendation, which is basically what we're following, is the recommendation. So recommendations in the plan
Mhm.
and recommendations by this committee are, to me, of equal weight. Does that do it? So just to be clear,
Mhm.
I'm putting together the work plan,
Mhm.
which sits there and
Is
and
informed by
implements
both.
the whole thing.
Mhm.
Your recommendations
Mhm.
are of equal weight to me as the recommendation set forth in the plan. So as a group,
Right.
I would just suggest in your report, recommendations, blah, 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 or however you want to do it. If you want to sit there and look at the plan, say the plan's broken out with these sections,
Mhm.
and then here's additional recommendations as a result thereof. I would appreciate it myself
Mhm.
if in your report you took it that way. And it's,
In other words, follow the structure of the plan. That's sort of what you're saying.
yes, and I'm not gonna sit there and tell you, don't, do it any way you want. But your recommendations
Mhm.
are I want you to know your recommendations are of equal weight to me as the recommendations from the consultant. And I'm going to marry those recommendations
Mhm.
with the work plan. The process and how it came to be the plan is, to me, it's in the past. Does that make sense?
Well, and let me be clear about what I'm saying about the process now. Let me also be clear about how I'm understanding our collective or our two process. The committee was given two mandates in the resolution: to provide input to the staff, which we have done in the form of all of the documentation that everybody submitted to be included as okay, and a report to council. Now, it did not preclude or suggest that the report that we provide council not be included as an appendix, that's fine. That's whatever, however the department can handle it. But it does ask us to provide a report to council. If you don't want to include things in the report about the process and you vote that that's what we want to do, then that is what we can do. But those are two separate documents. They don't have to align. They don't have to be in simpatico. They are two different documents. One is the economic development, and the other is a report of the committee.
But
Why
So
can't
that
they
you-
be the same?
Because they're different. Because they are different. It's almost like asking, at least from my point, it's almost like asking, why can't two different pieces that are going to inform a process, why can't there just be one? Well, there are two.
so that you're aware, I'm using it as a part of the plan.
And that's fine.
It's not a
Yeah,
separate
right. And
document,
that,
and it is
Right.
as an appendix. It is therefore a part of the plan.
right, and that, which is fine.
You're not personally concerned about adoption of our recommendations because you're already planning to use them because you said they're of equal weight,
Well,
right? So we're not,
So the plan
yeah,
will get adopted
Right.
because it's the plan.
yeah,
Right.
right.
And it's done by the professional consultant
Right.
whose opinion and your
Right.
recommendation
They adopted what they
are
adopted.
adopted with the plan. That therefore, all of the recommendations are of equal weight.
Right.
And so for me, doing that, now I can sit there and say, you just submit your report and you're not going to be part of the economic development plan. But that, to me, that dilutes the importance of this committee and the resumes of the people that are here. And I want to sit there and make sure that that's included into the plan.
Right.
Yeah.
However, again, if you go down the rabbit hole of talking about processes and things like that, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but it's
Right.
something
And-
that
and
should
For
be
me,
in
for
the
me,
plan.
that's where it was separate.
Yeah, and let,
That's why I don't think they should be the same thing.
they're
Well,
separate.
But that, because again, is how relevant is that to what the council has to do in that moment regarding the plan?
Right, that's
If
separate.
we've got concerns about how things might be done better for future community round two and all that, I'm just of the mind that we could individually on our own volition, on accord, share those things with you directly, and that would be, to me, that would be enough. I don't see that as being a part of that letter / report. I think that could dilute and cause the council perhaps not to read what we really need them to read, which is the
But it's both.
recommendation.
Well, it's really both, because they asked. for it.
I will disagree.
You know, like, no, I hear what you're
I'm sorry.
right. I agree with that.
No, and I'm not arguing that they're equally. I'm not, yeah, I mean, I appreciate the fact that Christian is treating them equally important. My point is only that the resolution asks two things, and that we provide both those things.
They didn't say a letter, they said a report.
They said a report, right, and this group decided that they would rather have the report be in the form of a letter in our last meeting. You go back and read the minutes. I think both, they recommended it, and Arnie agreed, and I think there was a couple of other people who agreed with that, and we said, we'll do a letter as the report.
Okay, so so recommendations are one of the things that they ask for. Yes.
Right, and all
What's the second thing that they explicitly ask for?
they asked for input to to the staff. They asked for a letter, or they asked for a report. They didn't ask for a letter. They asked for a report to council. We have provided input to staff. What we have to prepare is the report to council. In our last meeting, we decided that the report to council should be in letter form rather than something exhaustive. And that's what we agreed to. And it seems like there is
But are
a
you,
convergence in thought that somehow that they are one and the same.
well, I think that you're arguing over the content. So you have a format, which is a letter.
Correct.
But your letter is a report.
Right, it
And
is
it's-
a report.
And so your report is no, I mean, you're kind of,
But here's my suggestion.
Kind of what? I mean, finish 17.
Oh, I thought you trailed off.
well, it's your report is in a letter format. That's just,
Right.
it
Yeah,
doesn't mean that
that's
it's,
right.
it doesn't mean that it's a letter.
That's
As in you're writing a letter as far as, it doesn't mean that it got loose. It's
Right.
still in letter form.
Right, it's just a letter
So why don't we
as our
have
report.
a letter that says something like this?
Okay.
Dear council, we are who we are, we did what we did.
If you see, yeah, did you see the draft that I sent?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
We are who we are, we did what we did. And here is our report on the plan itself, as well as recommendations for the process. There is then a heading that says plan, comments, suggestions, recommendations, whatever it is. Then there is another heading down below that that says regarding the process.
Just be careful. Do you want that entire letter attached as an appendix?
I do not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
except,
And
Yeah.
then my recommendation,
Yeah.
and then my recommendation to Christian is that he take what starts with the header of this is our recommendations about the plan, take that and use it as the appendix. Because the rest of it is not about the plan per se,
right,
nor do we want to make that as public as it would be.
Right.
yes, it's just a report.
And that's a
from the
content issue,
Yeah.
not so
So this,
much.
so this is a
yeah.
structure of the letter suggestion and also a what parts Christian takes suggestion.
And I suggest that.
Yeah,
you
I-
have
and
your
I'm-
letter, and then you take a page, say, report be included in appendix of economic development
We can do
plan
that.
on that
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, we
And
can
then,
send it
does
and then, yeah,
that work?
That's
Works
what
for
I'm
me.
that's, fine. Yeah, and that can, when you look, again, this was just a straw man to facilitate our discussion about what that looks like. In our recommendations, as an example, you can say that. You can say exactly what he just said.
I only myself want to make recommendations about the content of the plan.
That's fine.
Comments, and I would separately make comments about the process if I came up.
Can.
Well, I
can you
do have
separate
some.
that?
That,
And the recommendations, can you, I'll say, recommendations are for the plan.
Yep.
It's in reference to the plan.
Correct.
It's not in reference to the plan.
that's my thinking.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and
I'm there.
in the straw man that I sent out, as says a segment of the letter, the two pieces that I wrote down, or the two memory joggers for me, or as part of the format, that we have a purpose, we have a finding, we have a recommendation, we have a report. And the purpose, that's pretty clear in really in the resolution, which is basically restated. In the finding is where our content is, whatever our opinion is, or thoughts about the plan itself, and our committee experience. And the recommendation is a separate part, which simply lists what we think from an economic development perspective, we think the city ought to take into consideration. An example of that for me, which would not be included in the regarding my findings of the content of the report, nor in our committee experience, have to do with the international business component of it and the education link. Only in the recommendations, not a part of my opinion of the content of the plan as it exists right now, nor a part of our experience.
You know, I didn't get that our opinion was separate from the recommendation.
It is. Yeah, our assessment of the plan is what and again, we can change this format. This is a straw man to have the conversation about what we're going to include in the letter. Right. And all I'm simply saying is this, is that in the recommendations portion of that letter, there are some specific economic development related only recommendations that I have that are not in the plan. I mean, that-
separate page so that Christian takes
So he
that
doesn't
and
have to cut
attaches
and
it.
paste.
yeah, he can do that, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just giving the committee, I mean, the council, what they asked, it's a report. What does that report need to include?
And then Christian will not include this entire document. He will include,
The recommendations.
Right, right, but it's kind of up to Christian, I mean, he can include as much or as little of it as he wants, really. I mean, that's the way I look.
Well, no, it's, for me, yeah, I prefer to do the whole thing, however.
Which is fine.
If you're going to go down the first part of this, the way that you're describing it, it doesn't have to do with the plan.
Right, it does not.
And that's where.
Right.
That's where
Yeah, you wouldn't, right, exactly.
so I would, in my opinion, and I'm doing this to ask if you're okay with that. Because
I am.
that segment off of that is, I want, your opinions are very important to me. I want you to sit there and know that first off, and secondly, this is, again, the weight of your recommendation is equal to me, plan itself. So be aware, use it to your advantage, please.
so
Right.
let me bring one topic, which is that I have the most issue with the document, the plan document.
Okay.
My opinion is that the plan does not give preservation of our natural resources equal weight with economic development. My recommendations right now, the way I've written them, are on page 74, they changed this paragraph, page 92, they changed that paragraph.
Right, right.
But the paragraphs aren't going to change. We're beyond that stage.
Mhm.
But your recommendations are an equal weight.
And
So
all.
you would act as if the plan included that change.
And that's why I said adoption earlier.
And that's why I'm saying that as an example, what you just described would be a part of the findings that you saw in the plan, that it did not include this element.
Well, my
I know
first
Mhm.
sentence was the first section of findings. And then
Right.
my three,
Yes,
change
would
page
be in
75,
recommendation.
90. Yes.
Right. Right. And you've already done that, really, in your initial report, if I remember correctly.
I'll.
Yeah, but again, that doesn't stop you
Now
from
that I have
putting
a
it
clear,
back.
now that I have a clearer sense,
Yeah.
I will make sure it's
Yeah.
sculpted out.
So to be clear, it's not a critique of the plan,
Right,
it's the recommendations that you see that are missing
right,
in the plan
right.
that are of equal weight to recommendations. So, and like you said, preservation or tourism or anything of that, or ecotourism are lacking in that. Please include that in your recommendations. You don't have to sit there in the recommendations, you're going to critique page 7.
Right, you don't,
It's, I recommend
correct,
this.
this and this, right.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect,
It-
that's
it
exactly the way I
does.
think about it.
I think the only thing
Yeah.
that gave me pause,
Mhm.
and it was content, was that we were going to include in this report, I wish that they would have centered this to the right.
Oh, no.
And man, I wished it, no, no, but that's what I thought I heard.
Okay.
You need to know that, because I was like, wait a minute, no, we can just
Yeah.
tell you, oh man, I wish Christian would have called us sooner. I wish he would have made sure. I thought it was that kind of stuff. I was like,
No,
that does
no.
not
No, we're
need
not
to
worried
be
that
in
they
an
made it
official report. I mean, yeah, because we can reach out to you about that. So,
Yeah,
yeah, so I'm good. I just want to make
No,
sure.
we're
My
not trying
concern
to
was
edit the
content.
report for the consultant. We're not trying to-
Well, and talk about process, because we mentioned process too. So I was like, if we got any
This is our
concerns,
process, not the
about-
consultant.
no, hang on, stop. If we have any concerns about how this went, I mean, this whole gathering, everything, that's what I was saying.
Mhm.
We could just email you that.
Right.
Yeah, because at first I thought we were talking about somehow incorporating that.
Well,
kind
I
of
do plan to
stuff.
include that kind of stuff in my record, in my findings. In the experience, I do plan to include one or two bullets on what I think council could have done in, or have into consideration in these kinds of committees going forward. I do intend.
And that's in the first half, not in the.
Right, it's not in the
Okay,
recommendation.
so then we're back to the two document thing. So
Well, it was
that you
always
have-
two documents. Yeah, it was always two documents.
And remember, and I call it the hole in the soul. What is the hole in the soul? When you see it and you see that there is a gaping hole,
Like what you-
address it.
Right,
Because if you don't address it.
Right.
It's not in it.
Right.
And I need it there. So that's it.
exactly. And that's why the international business piece is a big component for me, because it's a big hole.
Are we okay, Bernie? From the industrial council's
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah, absolutely.
How does the industrial council, by the way, your hair is.
It is confused.
Mm.
Can somebody summarize this conversation in 100 words or less? To, as far as a consensus
Mhm,
on what's going to be done.
mhm.
I got lost.
Okay,
Maybe
let
I'm
me give
getting
you,
old, but I
let me
got
give you
lost.
50 words. And I think it's gonna be less than
I
55.
didn't mean that.
Okay.
badly, but sarcastically. I got lost.
Yeah,
Ten,
Two reports,
well,
2 words, right?
14.
Two words, right?
Is it two reports? This is a letter.
Well, the letter itself is a report. Actually, it's.
Here we go again.
And you, no. The letter, our letter is a report. Those are synonymous. That's what
Right.
we agreed to in our last conversation.
Exactly.
And the second part of our responsibility for this process was to provide input to the staff, which we did in another report that Christian's gonna include as an opinion.
And
So there are going to be 2 reports.
Christian's report, we only have one. We provided input to Christian's report.
So. Whatever.
And Christian is responsible. Christian owns this report, lock, stock, and barrel. We gave him input to
There's
that.
going to be 3 documents, the plans, the report.
And then our letter. Yeah, if you wanted to look at it that way, that's exactly.
I don't have a there's a plan.
Right.
And then there's the report, and the first half of the report
Right.
is kicked out, and that's in the appendix.
Right.
So you're in a letter form, two different sections in your letter.
Right,
Your first part of the letter is your experience,
Right.
your recommendations, the
Right.
process. And then the second
as the
half
economic
is the
development.
recommendations specifically to plan.
Right.
It is not a process driven critique of, everything from the
Right.
inception of this group, or anything like that.
Right.
It is only plan driven, and where you see holes in the soul of the plan
Right.
that need to be addressed or need to be considered in the recommendations. Put that in there because that has equal weight to the recommendations.
Okay, so the letter is going to have 2 sections.
Correct.
And the first section is
By
going
and
to
large,
be,
yeah. I mean, you got your pleasantries up
Feedback on
front.
the process,
Right.
et cetera. Second is the meat of the report
Right.
that is going to be attached as an appendix to the consultants.
And you guys all agree that that
it's
first
going
half.
to be a commentary on the plan. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for taking us through the exercise.
I think we're all clear.
Yeah, I mean, it seems simple to me,
We're
but
there, we're there,
hey,
we're
it
there.
was in my head, so it was supposed to be simple, I guess, to me, but it seems simple that if we gave them our report, that we tell them what we thought of the plan, of our process, committee, and what we recommend. So,
One document.
our one document. Christian has his own.
No, no, it doesn't.
Christian has the plan from the consultant and its appendices that we submitted
Christian
anyway.
takes a portion of our one document.
And then he takes a portion of our letter and transfers it into the full set of documents that he's already gonna give.
I thought he was going to take all of them.
Now, he's only gonna take the recommendation, not the committee experience. And I'm suggesting that the committee
Why-
experience would be important to the council.
Excuse me, why are we even bothering the committee experience then?
Well, I think it's important to the council. I mean, you may not have anything that you want to include in that part of it. I'm not suggesting that you should. I'm just laying out a framework for our report to council.
No,
Just as a sort of a straw poll question, does anybody think the council, that we have anything to tell the council about the process that they do not know already?
I do. I thought I do.
Okay,
But I don't know if they do or not, but I do want to make it a part of their official record that I said.
there's a little something called a grand jury present. Every
Ooh,
now and
okay.
then is published in the county legal order.
Okay.
And in it, the grand juries, which meet every 2 months,
Mhm.
in DeKalb County, lay out their experience
Okay.
and the process, and they make comments about how they think the experience should be changed, how the structure should be changed.
Mhm.
I've always wondered whether, and I've been following these for some 40 years, and I've always wondered who the heck is paying attention to this, because I don't think too many. Every now and then, they'll get into something scandalous or salacious, and then there'll be a big controversy.
Okay.
But in general, I don't know, I've never felt that it really accomplished all that.
The process is never changing in grand jury.
Not as a result of what they say in the present. Anyway, I'm just throwing that out to say,
Okay.
if y'all want to do that, that's fine, but.
Yeah, I do, and I just want to make it a matter of record, that's all.
Okay.
Whether they throw it out and say,
I do think we're in danger of diluting the impact of what we're saying about the actual content of the plan. If we have this two-pronged thing, especially if we're leading off with it as the first section. I would say put it as the second section, an appendix to the appendix, if you will, and really hit first and hardest with our commentary on the content of the plan.
well, I
Lead
mean,
off with our best, our strongest
What's important
arguments.
about what?
well, that's what the template, I mean, the straw man that I sent out, that's what it does. It's ask you about your impression of the plan, but keep in mind, we are talking two different sets of documents, really three. And that is the plan from the consultant, along with the attachments that Christian is going to make, which include the input that you guys provided a couple of months.
I still am bogging down. What attachment?
No.
business?
No,
Hey,
we're not including.
We're not including that input. We're
No.
including,
Our recommendation here.
Is that the only thing? Okay, that's fine, okay. Because I was under the impression earlier that he had mentioned that he would include the input from those sessions.
no, most, I think
Most have been
80% of those.
included.
But the onus was on the consultant to decide what. to
Then that's
adopt.
perfect, then that's perfect.
And so for me, the things that I am going to send to you to ask to be included
In the recommendation.
in the recommendations are a subset of the 100 things. Well, subset of my 75 of the 100 things. They didn't take 15. I think 5 of those are important enough to
Right.
put in
So,
there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Worthy exclusions.
but does that make sense? Arnie?
It's making more sense.
Okay.
And so our goal is at our next meeting to have a draft of the
Which is 2 weeks from
final,
now, by the way. Yeah.
a draft of the final,
Right,
and to sit here and decide any changes that are needed.
correct. And that between now and maybe the end of this week or the first of next week, you will have emailed me what you think those components of the letter that need to go into the letter. And then I will combine them all, send them out before our meeting. We'll have a chance to review it so we can have a speedy conversation. when we can.
Amen.
We good?
We're still open for commentary and discussion.
Please.
And this may be an issue which is unique just to the industrial council, since we are the ones who are organizing the CID, although I think it's really something that pertains to the entire city business structure.
Okay.
I can tell you that we continue to be very concerned over something which really I think has a unique status in this entire report.
Mhm.
And that is the commentary that's included in the report about whether it's a good idea or not over the next few years to try to organize an industrial CID.
Okay.
There was a proposal to amend the contract with the consultant for the city council to appropriate more money for such a study to be done. That was rejected,
Okay.
to my understanding.
Right.
This commentary by the consultant has no appropriate place in this report.
Right.
It is a throwaway. We don't know where it's coming from. We don't know really who wrote it. We don't know what sort of perceived facts they were basing it on.
Mhm.
And I'm very concerned that, first of all, we've had 4 years of a CID advisory.
Mhm.
I was on the committee for 2 years. I was a co-chair. We did a lot of work. The next 2 years, Greg Bright has had it. He's done a lot of work. We've had a industrial council organizing CID for some time. A lot of people signed up already. And we don't even have a product yet. We don't have a product, the city council or the consultant to evaluate. And yet, we have this statement, which is made by the consultant.
Mhm.
Oh, no, it's not appropriate. It shouldn't be considered.
Mhm.
And now I hear, well, the entire economic development plan is going to be incorporated in the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
All right, so I understand that, except that it's garbage in, garbage out. This stuff has a way of having a radioactive half-life.
No,
yeah,
that is
yeah,
in
that's right.
concurrence with you, yeah.
I do not understand
Mhm.
how this piece of the economic development plan was allowed to be there to begin with. I think it's totally inappropriate.
Mhm.
And I do think there are reasons, and I'm not going to go into them here.
Mhm.
There are reasons to question the objectivity of this particular consultant. And I can talk with you offline about
Yeah,
this.
yeah, okay.
I can share it with you,
Mhm.
that I do think that this particular consultant, not the overall one, I'm talking about the sub, really should not be involved in giving any opinion about the viability of a CID within Stonecrest. And there are historic and very specific reasons about that. And I can go into that with anybody offline.
Yeah.
But so that is my feeling about it. And I think at most, if the consultant wants to do this,
Mhm.
then it should do it in their own appendix,
Mhm. Mhm.
or maybe in an introduction to the plan, where they make various comments.
Mhm.
But right now, that particular thing is embedded in the plan,
Mhm.
and it's going to be taken as gospel by some folks who don't understand or don't have any reason to know the circumstances and the real facts.
Well, my response to that, Bernie, would be twofold. One, more directly, I would imagine you could come up with a bullet that said this particular section or this particular element of the plan needs to be explored more deeply as a part of your recommendation, as an example in our letter. But more broadly speaking, I think it's important to appreciate that this is the city's first effort at a planned economic development process and plan, and that there will be subsequent ones. This one may even get updated as an example by another consultant. So I do think that the grace, if you will, that could be extended is recognizing that this plan is not as robust as it could be. It certainly isn't as specific as it could be. But the city, along with the work that Kristen is doing, will see things a month from now, a year from now, in their own experience and interacting with the constituencies that this should have been covered, whatever this might happen to be. And so I think there's an opportunity. I think there's going to be an opportunity. Bottom line,
It was covered.
No, but hear what I'm saying. In these processes, in economic development process.
I have two responses to that. First of all, what you just said is wonderful, except that it's not responsive to what I said.
Okay.
First of all, they were told, no, you can't do this.
I get that.
And they did it anyway.
Right.
So it should not be in there. Second, it's inappropriate for this particular consultant to be working on it. But I'm going to give you one specific example of why you have to guard against garbage going into a plant.
Mhm.
Last summer, the planning department drew up a list of purported truck parking lots in the city.
Right.
It was full of mistakes. One of the big mistakes was that it listed a parcel, a half-acre parcel that one of my clients has, S&W, as a truck parking lot. Completely false.
Right.
Wrong, as a matter of fact.
Right.
It's a piece of land which is being used as part of their used auto parts business.
Right.
Last week, code enforcement went out and gave them a ticket for not having a business license to operate a truck parking lot.
Right.
I got in touch with code enforcement. I said, why are you doing that?
Mhm.
That, well, it's in the plan. It's in this report,
Right.
which the planning department prepared last year,
Wow.
which was never adopted by city council.
Right.
And now I'm engaged in discussions
Right.
with the planning department and with code enforcement
Right.
because there is a document sitting out there, which was drawn up last summer, which incorrectly lists this parcel as being a truck parking lot.
I get that.
It's like, it's Kafkaesque, and if you allow this stuff to stay in these documents at the beginning, you will always run the risk of having it come back and bite you on the butt.
I get that. And all I'm simply saying is this, and I'll defer to Andrew, is that,
There's no excuse for it being.
no, I'm not, and I'm not making an excuse for them at all. I'm not the consultant, but the consultant wrote what they wrote, and it is their land.
That is way, I'm sorry, but that's way too laissez-faire. I'm sorry, that was supposed to be a steering committee.
Right, but the steering committee, if you read the resolution regarding the steering, what you just said would be most appropriate in the form of input to staff. You can also include that as a bullet item, as an example, in your
And exactly
recommendation.
what does that accomplish then?
It puts
It
on the
doesn't
radar,
go to the root of the problem.
but as observers of the planning process, we aren't authorized to change the consultant's plan. Take anything out or add anything in, which is why we have a rule that tells the council, these are the things that we think are important that weren't captured in the consultant's plan. And so while I can appreciate not only the passion, but the essence of what you're saying is that if we allow something in the plan to go forward that doesn't meet reality or doesn't make sense or isn't in the best interest of the city, that it ought not be there. I get that. All I'm simply saying is that we're not in a position to author.
Can I make a quick?
Okay.
Bernie, in regards to the CID
Mhm.
and the recommendation, write it and make it a counter. Make it a counter, and then I understand what the
Well, I
plan says.
have an alternative proposal.
Okay.
If we're going to be talking about process, then perhaps we could ask city council, instead of simply having a public meeting where you have the consultant get up and make the presentation, and nobody has an opportunity to stand up and directly talk to city council and rebut it. Perhaps we could ask city council to break with tradition here and actually hold a public hearing. A public hearing on this matter, where the floor is going to be open to public comments, to opposition to particular parts, and we actually have a reasonable debate about this thing.
I would say make that a bullet in your
Now, there we go.
experience. Well, I mean, we've got to have a way to communicate this.
Why not get a motion? Why not have this committee issue a resolution asking for it?
I don't
It's
know if we have
supposed to be a
that
steering
level of
committee.
authority. Yeah, but I don't know, I don't think, yeah.
Sure we do, actually. We can ask for anything we want.
Yeah, and I agree that we can ask for anything that we want, but all I'm simply saying, the mechanism that we've been given to communicate to the city about our activities in this process had two lanes in it. One was input to staff.
That's your understanding of it. It's certainly not.
Well, tell me which part of the resolution you think would address it.
Sam, I would certainly go outside those lanes and I will beg forgiveness from them rather than ask permission.
And I'm saying, if you want to go outside those lanes, I'm saying use your report as that vehicle to do that. There are no other options for this.
And I'm agreeing with Bernie
Okay.
that for us to have a motion
Mhm.
that says this is how we request or suggest that the council handle the something or other, but that they have such a thing as he described, we can do a resolution and we can ask them by a resolution to do that.
Then you might want to include a resolution as an attachment to the letter. All I'm simply saying is that the
No,
resolution that
let's
establishes.
get it in, let's have a resolution, and according to Robert's Rules of Order, it's gonna be in the minutes. It's gonna
Well,
be
you
in the
can-
minutes, and it's.
And you can have it as
in the
a
city
part of the
council.
minutes of this meeting to make sure that we include that resolution. I'm assuming you might draft
I don't, I
that we
really
can
don't
have in
want
our
to
next
see it
meeting, but
buried in the report or the letter. It's something that I think that has to be a separate document that's transmitted to city council.
and I'm saying that that is not a function of this committee,
Well,
based on the resolution
and
that
you
I
and
read.
I obviously differ on,
But then all I'm
it.
saying.
And I don't read the resolution that way.
Then all I'm simply saying, Bernie, is that in our next meeting, bring us the section in which you believe what you just described applies, and we'll do it.
Well, if we're going to get that technical, then we can start talking about whether we've actually been reconstituted for this year as a committee.
Right.
Wait, I don't want to get that technical at this point.
Well, I don't want, but.
I'm just saying.
The resolution.
Well, Andrew is replying so far.
No, I'm not, so I don't want to like muddy the waters any, with this. I literally do not want to get that technical. I think we were reconstituted, and so I'm
I
not
think
sure.
we will.
Well, I'm just, but again,
I
but
think we
we're,
will.
but we're acting, like, we're literally, we're making decisions. We got at least 2 motions that we've already done, so, no, I don't want to get that
Andrew,
technical.
I get that. But
Okay.
My point is that he's referring back to the document which only applied to 2023, literally.
Well, you're right, but.
We are acting as if we still have this authority, and I get what you're saying, and let's
Yeah.
go along with that. But I do think it's not appropriate to try to refer to the letter of a resolution that no longer has any force of effect.
And here's where I would differ on that, just for the sake of conversation. Obviously, the public is enjoying this part of our meeting. I would hope, certainly the most energetic part.
All right, yeah, all right. Better than before.
And we've got about 10 or 15 minutes
And
left.
after you're done, I got a quick question
10,
about your
15 minutes left.
cautionary tale.
Right, and that is,
Detail.
Yes.
yeah, and that is simply that because we don't have a report, which the resolution calls for, I don't know that the committee being enforced as an example, and I do think, because I did submit a request,
Right.
which I copied everybody on, to have this committee, its tenure extended.
Right.
I do believe that would happen. But even if it didn't happen, I would be arguing that we still are obligated to provide them.
And I'm not saying not, I'm saying that there's nothing stopping us from providing additional documents.
And I'm
You're
not,
saying go
yeah,
for it.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm saying that in order to provide those additional documents, which I'm hearing you describe as rather robust efforts, that if we want to include a line like that in the recommendation, really, I would see more in our process. That's what this sounds more like. It is not related to the plan per se. But I know you'd argue differently because it's in the plan, right?
It's only gutting, it's only has the potential to gut 10 years of effort.
I get it.
I
I get it.
As a
Is there a
throwaway
talking
from
stick in the
consultant.
room?
Yeah. All I would suggest on that, Bernie, is that either goes to Kristen in the form of input to staff or in the letter of report, which the resolution calls. That's all I'm
There you
Go
go.
ahead,
There you
Dave.
go.
That's in section 1, Bernie.
saying.
I move that via a communication from the secretary to the mayor pro tem,
Mhm.
this committee suggests that the council hold a public presentation of the plan with opportunity for questions and answers from the public prior to the formal adoption.
I second the motion.
Thank
and-
you.
And I will put in a comment that actually, been my feeling for many, many years, that that's actually the format which should be taken with the presentation of all of these plans. And certainly it's done that way with the comprehensive plan because that's part of the zoning process. But I do think that it's such a wonderful idea that it ought to be extended to all of the other plans which are being generated by staff and consultants, that at least at some point,
Okay.
the public should have an opportunity to directly address the council.
Yeah, Don't have a problem with that. It's been moved and properly second. That we, could you restate the motion?
That via
Did you write it down?
communication
Yeah, I'm making it.
from,
And almost.
via communication from the secretary to the mayor pro tem, this committee suggests, and that's the key word, suggest, that the city have a public presentation of the plan, including time for questions and questions from the public and answers from staff prior to adopting the plan.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hey, I'm trying to eat up these last 9 minutes here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? One abstention.
The motion passes.
The motion passes.
0-1.
Whoa. So in your cautionary tale,
Oh, about you guys.
your proverb, your byword. So, the person from code enforcement who gave the ticket, they got their information from a report that was not a part of the adopted report? Or was it a part of the?
I can describe it.
Yeah.
But the process last year, there were revisions to the truck parking ordinance.
Right.
As part of the staff analysis, staff prepared a report.
Right.
When the ordinance was adopted, that report was not part of the ordinance. It never became a part of the zoning code, but it was still hanging around. And apparently, and this was unexpected, that report is being referred to by code enforcement as if it were something that absolutely definitively showed where the truck parking lots are in the city of Stonecrest.
Right.
And in this particular instance, it's completely egregiously wrong.
Wrong.
But it's hard to argue against it because if you go to code enforcement, they'll say, well, you got to go to planning. Well, we have gone to planning. We've sent emails and all that. We're waiting for responses, and I'm confident that it's going to be addressed. But the point is that it should never have happened that way to begin with, because once more, we have an example of a report which was never presented publicly in a hearing where somebody could have challenged it.
Right.
It was just an internal document, but it's being used internally to go after folks.
So I still agree with what we just motioned, but that's somewhat different than what we're dealing with here, because this is actually going to be what we believe to be the official document. That's kind of scary because that speaks to stuff that this committee was not pointed out to deal with. But like that's actually a big issue, that someone took something that wasn't
True to begin with.
and it wasn't adopted. So it was false and not adopted. It was just
Exactly.
out there and somebody got it.
But
So
I
I
don't-
just wanted to understand that.
And I don't want to beat this to death, but I will point this out.
Okay, we've got
Suppose
7 minutes. left.
Hypothetically, by this time, by April of this year or April next year, the industrial council has gathered 50 or 100 property owners who signed the consent form. We go to the tax commissioner, he says, you're fine. We go to city council and we say, will you please create the CID? And somebody sits there and says, I'm sorry, we already have this economic development plan that says that's a bad idea. You see where I'm going?
I got
Can I, but that, I'd really throw a monkey wrench in this.
Please, please.
Just for fun, Bernie,
You're always
so you're super excited. You've got, yeah, there you go, zealous. I mean, this committee exists for the plan. Right. The consultant is going to present the plan. Your report. Part of the plan. Pick a representative or whoever in this group. All of you, whatever. No, that is, it reduces the public component and all of that. As far as the public hearing piece, while it focuses on you and this report, and it is part of that, are you, are you open to, you can make your recommendation to Mayor Pro Tem, and that's fine. But as part of the presentation to council, is that something that?
Well,
I
let me
think
just, come-
that
let me,
is-
let me just comment on that first. The resolution itself states specifically that our report will be orally and or in writing at a time agreed to by the committee and council. So that's already in the resolution. That is supposed to happen. Whether it happens at that particular meeting, that depends probably more on council than it would on us, but in the resolution, it states specifically that our reporting to council will be oral and or written at a time agreed to by both parties.
I agree with you 100% on that. But I do not think what Christian is suggesting contravenes that actually in any way. We are suggesting
Mhm.
that the time and place be something. The council can counter with something else or say, no, written is fine, we don't need all. And assuming I'm in the country, I would love to volunteer to give the presentation there.
Well,
I'm kind of used to listening to me up
all
there.
right, well, what I'm going to suggest, is before we make a decision on who presents our report, that we get our report together and we see what the content is, and then we can make a decision with respect to that going forward. I don't disagree with Christian's recommendation. If we want to be able to do that, I don't think that we should set that time based on that date without having council confer with us on when they think that date ought to be.
I think we are suggesting not a specific date and time, because we don't know when we do not know when the consultant's going to present it.
Right.
But we're just,
Right, you're suggesting that we
Yes.
do it at the same time or in proximity to when the consultant do their report. And my only caution with that, and I think we can have that discussion once we complete our report. My only caution with that, and concern, quite frankly, is that, and this probably sounds way too accommodating, maybe perhaps to some here, but I don't think that we need to undermine the consultant's relationship with their report and the city if there is the possibility of our presentation somehow raising contempt. And so,
You'd be in a separate,
Okay.
so the consultant
Okay.
will present the plan to city council on February 12th. I
Okay.
will hold off on adoption of that plan, which would be at city council on February 24th, if I remember right, in lieu of the
26.
that we bring back up the plan for your presentation on the plan and recommendation as a result thereof.
I do
What-
not think that
what-
our
Mhm.
recommendations about the plan
Mhm.
would throw the consultants under the bus in any way. We're saying what we think. They're saying what they think. We're not saying they're fools, idiots, and have a lousy process with polluted people. We're
I just don't think
saying,
we need to be in competition with them, but
we're-
again.
We're not in
right.
competition. We are in disagreement.
Nor do I
about
think we
a
need to be in public.
recommendation.
Yeah, my position that we should not be in public disagreement with the consultant. I think that we should have our separate report
If you can make your.
at a separate time.
With the change to the plan, instead of the criticism
Right,
if you present like that,
right.
instead of the criticism of the plan, the committee recommends changing, findings on XYZ, ID on this page, do whatever.
Yeah.
Council And that then has the ability to ask questions of you and to provide direction to me on what to do, not criticism, recommendation.
Well, I would like
that.
I would like to
Okay.
propose that we table that conversation, the conclusion of that conversation for our next meeting after we have concluded our report. Because we are at the end of our meeting and this conversation could like go a little longer than we needed to go without any complete full sense of what it is that we.
Would you be comfortable agreeing that we want to do this without agreeing as to who would do it?
I don't want to agree on it at all. Yeah. I want to table that conversation for our next meeting.
If you're, unless the chair doesn't. wants to
No,
defer.
you're certainly can make a motion.
I think I would leave the Dave to be the person who presents it for us. Not Dave. Absolutely, I'm joking.
Do we have a second?
And the reason I say go forward with it at this point, at least with that, is that if Dave is going to be making the presentation, Dave should be thinking, it's not too early to be thinking in terms of how to do that, and what to say. It's something that there's so much material there, that it's going to take some real thought.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I'm personally still in question about the relevancy of what you're describing to this particular process, which is why I would defer to further discussion. And we've run out of time.
I believe I saw a second.
Just second that motion.
Been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The ayes have it.
Yeah, one of the things about this that may come out of this that I'm excited about is I think public discourse, whether it's pro or con, is good for these processes, period. Not just for you to air your grievance, but for people to also come back and say, no, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that we should have a CID. No, I do want to, and then you get a chance to present facts. And I like that happening in the public. It's messy, but it can be revelatory. So I love the idea of moving in that direction with our meetings, this process, similar to what we do with the comp plan, because I've always been in favor of the public discourse taking place where people can share. It's not contentious because it's people have got a gun in for you. It's contentious because they're competing ideas.
Yeah,
right.
And I agree. But I would like to, that I want to make clear.
Yeah.
Our position, council, is that it's premature to be saying anything about whether the thing is viable
Yeah, I
or
heard
not
you.
at this point. I mean, if I wanted to, I could, or, you know, we could take the logical conclusion of what Christian has said, is saying, there should be substituted a statement, it's a great idea, move forward right away.
Right,
We're
right.
not asking for that, it's just that, give us a chance.
Well,
And that's why,
we will see
that's
your
why to
bullet.
me it seems that we've already bashed it, so it's
Yeah.
done deal, and we just ready to close.
Great.
Which is why it seems that it's premature to make a decision on it if we're not clear on what it is that we're into.
Yes, sir.
But at any rate, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.